So, yeah, very interesting.
We're now joined by Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades. This is day, I think, five or six of the national or name, image, and likeness. Mack, thanks for your time. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend and got a little bit of some decompression downtime. What are your early impressions on NIL?
Yeah, pretty calm, for the most part. Nothing that really maybe surprised me, other than, I'm sure you've talked about it already, the, University of Miami football and that, that arrangement, that contract, that relationship with the MMA training academies and, this, $500 a month contract, up to $6,000 a year for every, football player. And, just had some early conversation with some of my colleagues in the business. And, that one feels almost straight pay for play. Mm-hmm. And, when you're offering it across the board to every single, member of the team. So I will say, at least amongst the group that I visit with, there's some uncomfortableness there. And you speak to, I think that's an example of maybe uneven playing field. And, that's strictly for recruiting purposes, obviously. And again, not being critical of it, they are within the rules doing it. But, I think there's some uncomfortableness there. And I think that's why at some point in time here in the near future, we've got to get to a place where we've got consistent rule, right. And application of rule, across the industry. So, and, that's probably not going to happen without federal legislation.
Is this kind of the issue that's maybe shown how hard it is to get things through all the member institutions when you have, 300 plus member institutions that all have to come to an agreement on this? Is this really why it's stalled, that there's just too many people that have to agree to a plan for NIL for it to work?
No, because I don't think everybody needs to agree to it. I think there's a lot of moving pieces and parts to it, Paul. I think it's a really good question. So I didn't mean to insinuate otherwise, but it is a really good question. But the NCAA has the ability in terms of name, image, and likeness legislation to the D1 Council and the Board of Governors have the ability to implement across the board. I think given just where we are in terms of lawsuits and antitrust, I think there's a lot of carefulness in terms of what to implement, how far to implement, and I think that's why the NCAA I believe is hoping and I think we're all needing some sensible, federal name, image, and likeness legislation that governs us all.
Mack,
and
sorry, go ahead.
Keyword is sensible.
Sensible, yep. Mack, what have you been able to gather? I don't know, who all's around right now and all of that. It's the middle of the summer, but, what kind of feedback have you received from the student athletes just as far as them now having this opportunity? Is there an excitement there? Is it the unknown make it even more exciting? How have you kind of gauged the feedback?
Yeah, Craig, I think I was listening to the conversation that you guys were finishing before you brought me on, and a little bit hard to gauge because of summer, but there was a session with our student athletes, and I think there's I think with at least our student athletes, I think there's a sense of gratefulness and appreciation for the way we're handling it and the thoughtfulness, and I do think there's some excitement to it as well. So, our coaches have been terrific. Our student athletes have been terrific. And as we get out of maybe summer break, and as you think about maybe right around the 1st of August, I'll be interested to see just kind of where we are, and both as an industry and here at Baylor. But so far for us, I think we're in a good place, and I think our coaches and student athletes are in a good place.
We had you on last week, and then we also were a part of a media Zoom session with Chad Jackson and Jovan Overshone about NIL. And then I kind of saw some of the reaction. Of course, message boards, you got to be careful because it can get a little bit nuts in there. But it was almost as if some thought that you guys weren't prepared for that. That's not the case. That's not what you said to us last week, was it?
No, I mean, we've been talking about this for months and months, and I think we've been extremely prepared. And I think what's maybe a little bit different is some of the stuff that schools are announcing that they're doing, and some of the education behind it. I'll give you for example, the whole financial education. Those are things that we've already been doing, and we've been doing that under the guise of our Baylor Built program, and now there's some name, image, and likeness additions to it. So Baylor Built Plus, we've changed the name as we've talked to, and so I can absolutely say that with 100% confidence that is not the case. I think we're 100% prepared and have been, and we know philosophically, and we've talked about it on this show, philosophically, how we're going to handle it, how we're going to manage it. I think we're on the same page in terms of coaches, administration. So I feel great about where we are, and that we're in a great place. And for those that are saying that, they quite frankly have no idea.
Will it be harder for coaches or administrators to wrap their arms around this because of the way, especially with coaches, are all about routine and the way things have always kind of worked for them? It might be hard for a certain generation of coaches to really grasp this, won't it?
Yeah, that's Paul, it's a great question because, we had a working group, and it speaks to the preparation, right? So we've had this name, image, and likeness working group. And just within the working group, there's been different dynamics. We have, people on that working group that, I'm going to say, mid-20s, late 20s, right, that see it and grasp it differently and probably from a perspective of look at all of the great possibilities, opportunities, whereas, some others didn't necessarily, see it or grasp it that way. And so I thought that was a really interesting dynamic. And so it plays along a little bit what you're asking, when you're talking about, administrators versus coaches. I think, for coaches, and if you're in their shoes, right, at least if I'm a coach, I just, without compromising values, I just don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage. And so I think that's where their minds are from that recruiting perspective, et cetera. I just, again, want to have a fair chance, again, without compromising values and doing it within our philosophy. And again, our coaches, head coaches, have been unbelievable, right? This idea when you use the word brand and Baylor being the overarching, the predominant brand, but still finding ways for individual student athletes to grow their brand and to maximize it within the Baylor brand. And so again, I speak to I think we're in a good place, and this is going to evolve, no doubt. It's going to evolve. I think it's at some point in time it's going to jump out really, really strong, and then probably retract and correct itself, so to speak.
So when you were having conversations with those in your business about Miami, was there that just can't happen? I mean, yet again, what they're doing based on their state, it can, because Chad Jackson kind of made it clear that if it doesn't come from the school itself, then it's kind of, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's kind of open season, right?
Yeah. Yep. If the institution isn't involved in orchestrating and it's we're not pushing, we're not at the center of it, then yeah. And so again, not being critical of it's a great program, great history, great athletics program, all of those things. But that was the conversation, just being candid with you that, man, that one just feels like, and maybe, well, Mac, what would make it feel different maybe? And I think, well, maybe, yeah, there's probably, a handful of football student athletes, on the Miami team, or maybe even more than that, right? Because it is a great program. They've got a great team, but that endorsing, those training facilities on their social media accounts is really helpful and beneficial, to those training facilities, et cetera, right? But when it's across the board and it's all 85, and I think it's really 90 this year because of the super seniors, then that just feels a little different. But again, right now, within the rules.
Mac, is it something else just to keep you up at night?
No, not really. To be honest with you, I'm comfortable where we are and how we're doing it, and I think when you combine this with everything else that we're dealing with, maybe that keeps you up at night a little bit. The Alston case and all of the other different COVID and still trying to navigate that, the Delta variant. What happened in Omaha with NC State, and so there's probably 6 or 7 things that when you combine them all together, they keep you up a little bit later than what you'd like.
Were you surprised at all that Matthew Meyer was the first student athlete at Baylor who had somebody contact him?
No, I was not.
No, we weren't either.
No.
And I say that very complimentary to Matthew. So,
Mac, and next week in Arlington will be Big 12 Media Days. Bunch of people all under one roof. Are you looking forward to that? And Dave Aranda, I guess, kind of his first. You didn't get to do this last year, obviously, but Dave Aranda getting to, talk a little bit and present the program.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Football Media Days, it signifies, I think, to all of us, it's just right around the corner, and conversations begin ramping up, and you look for to the beginning of, or to the start of the fall camp, and so excited about that. I'm excited for Coach and to be able to experience that for the first time, and the young men that will also be present. And again, we were on a call today just talking about how we were going to navigate it with COVID, and those that are vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and masks, no masks, and all of that stuff. So that's still prevalent in our world, and will be as we continue to work through the summer. But excited for Football Media Day, excited for Coach, for our staff, and can't wait for practice to begin.
I have one more question, if you don't mind. A lot of players in this day and age where now there's the stipend, there's now the NIL, there are the cost of education, there's the travel, there's the swag, the jerseys, all the things that now student athletes get. And I'm not arguing against any of it. What are your thoughts about that is team-issued equipment and or, I guess, merchandise, correct? What are your thoughts then about them when they get that, turning around and making a profit off of it themselves?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, candidly, I have some reservations about it. And I think that I think it's hard to have the conversation because I do think that there's potentially some circumstances where it makes sense and some where it probably gives me some heartburn. So and that's going to continue to be a topic of conversation. And again, for me, it's, I just go back to Smoak, this idea of, again, I think it's important for our young people to thoughtfully, carefully, navigate their brand and their name, who they are as a person, who they are as a student athlete. And so I'm all for that. And if they can make $1 or $2 along the way, again, I support that. Where I struggle is if that, becomes now bigger than the university,
mm-hmm.
bigger than that's where I struggle. And that's what, that's what we're trying to navigate. Obviously, the level playing field, recruiting, the guardrails, all of those things are really, really important. But philosophically, that's where we're gonna continue to try to monitor it and make sure we've got a great balance. And again, our student athletes have been terrific, and so have our coaches.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. As always, Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor University, with us on SicEm365 Radio. Craig, I was able to get that last one in. I'd written it down about the selling of jerseys.
Well, it sounds like he's with me on this. Yeah. As far as, I know what you guys were saying, and I understand they go and sweat in those jerseys and all that, but if it's part of the scholarship to begin with, and those uniforms are then being worn by somebody who turns around after not paying for the uniform, it was given to him as part of all the other thousands of dollars of things that they get, and then they turn around and sell it for thousands of dollars, I have a problem with that. Like, I understand why that shouldn't be a big deal, and it's not something I'm getting hung up on, but it just seems kind of dirty, like that it's give, and the stuff that you're taking, you're then selling around and making a profit off of it. That doesn't sit well with me for some reason, to see a guy selling his Baylor basketball jersey for $400. I don't know why that irks me, and my reaction to this is far more extreme than my actual feelings on it, because do it, don't do it. I just find it to be a bit strange and a bit of, like, how much before you actually, like, say, no, you can't actually do that now. Like, when do we get to the point of where, no, that's not actually acceptable? Like, sell this, sell that, sell this, all this stuff you got for free, mind you, so then you turn another profit. Like, that's what bothers me, is it's free, and then you sell it for $500. And, okay, you sweated in it, but I don't know. I just don't see the return on investment for a lot of the investments the schools are making. Like, all this money's being spent, all this stuff's, going on, and yeah, your basketball national title clears the books for a lot of the other stuff, but that's not most schools. And all I see is give, and there's never any real take, except for time to go to class and go to practice. And then we hear the time part, the one thing that they ask, the time part is somehow more valuable than all the other stuff that they get in the minds of the people who think that they should just get everything with no repercussions whatsoever. Like,
Remember we had the conversation. We got a break so you can get
Like
your
there's just no rules.
Remember the conversation we had earlier in the show about mental health and how important it is to watch it, to understand it, to notice it, all that, and how it was like here forever. And now because Naomi Osaka, it's like the pendulum swings. It's the same thing with this. It's like they were getting nothing, although they were, and now they're getting everything. Well, and I say they, and I don't fault them. Because if it's there, have it. If it was something we had available to us more and more and more, we would too. We wouldn't say no, but it does seem like it's gone from here, 0 to 1, or whatever the number would be.
Yeah, and I think just to put it simply, like, look, okay, the schools don't want to pay them cash and a salary. Good. They shouldn't have to because, like Craig said, they give and stuff costs money. It doesn't just, materialize. But they shouldn't be allowed to stop them from making money in other avenues, which now they can't. So it's even. But I do agree with you, Craig. It does feel weird to me, like just in a business sense, if I gave you a helmet and a jersey and all this stuff that you could use, even if I wasn't going to take it back and I was going to let you keep it, if I gave it to you and you told me you were going to sell it, I'd at least want you to kick upstairs a little bit.
Right, exactly.
Like, if you're going to sell it for $10,000, I at least want $1,000. Yeah. Like, give me $1,000.
But if you give somebody something, they don't owe you anything.
No, but it just,
I get it though. The perception,